All right. Welcome back to the Transparent Talk podcast. Here I have Jayden for part two. I got 10 questions for you, and I got five rapid fire. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Oh boy, let's see how you do. There's no wrong answers. You're fine.
Nervous.
Okay, so the very first thing is what made you start your own business?
Mm. So how this all started for me was when I was younger, like when I was, 13, 14, 15. I wanted to play soccer professionally. As Zach knows, because we were on the same soccer team back then. And so, as a 14-year-old, I was going to a nutritionist to see how I could eat better and going to the park local to me to like practice goal kicks and just like do all this stuff to like try and get better. And I ran into issues with concussions and I had three concussions within like a year and a half and like four concussions overall. And so I had to stop playing soccer for a while. And at the time, like I wanted to be a pro soccer player. I had no other plans or no other path for my life. And so that led me into like a period of time where I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Kind of like end of high school, first year university, I felt like I was just a little bit lost. And I was in my first year of university that I went into business school because I knew I wanted to start some type of business. I just didn't know what it was. And then it was in that first year of business school that I was learning some things, but I wasn't learning anything that was actually getting me any closer to starting a business. And so what ended up happening is I kind of came across the idea of like drop shipping and selling things online and starting a Shopify store. And what happened was I was out for dinner with a friend of mine and we were kind of talking about I was telling him about all of the stuff I had learned about drop shipping and Shopify. We were both talking about Pokemon Go at the time because this was, back in July 2016 and so Pokemon Go was huge back then. And
Huge.
yeah,
You
yeah,
going outside, there's so many people out.
you'd see like 15 grown adults at a park at like 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, and you would think, oh, there must be like a Gyarados there or something like that. Like it was pretty funny. And
Yeah, that's so true.
yeah, so like it kind of like clicked for me as I was having dinner with a friend of mine where I was like, "Oh, I could sell hats and t-shirts and Pokemon related stuff." And I knew nothing about how copyright works and what you are and aren't allowed to sell. I was like, "Oh, I'll just set up like a little Shopify store and also start selling these hats and I'll just figure it out." And so, went home that night, built that store. First sale happened like 2 days later and then from there it just kind of it grew into a decent sized store for a few months and then I took what I had learned about marketing and online business and kind of tried to start a few other e-commerce stores and then ultimately decided to transition into doing marketing for other people and running a marketing agency and I decided that back in 2017 and it's 2025 and that's still what I do.
Okay. That's amazing. I have a couple things to say. Very first thing on the nutrition side at 14, 15, you said you had a nutritionist. So for me, hold on, before I let you talk. Me growing up, I wanted to be a professional soccer player just like you. And I never got a nutritionist ever. I was just kind of like in the mud type training, which definitely wasn't good if you're trying to be a professional athlete. Get a nutritionist, learn about all the different health things you need to know about stretching and wellness and that stuff because it matters. But that's crazy at 14, 15 that you were doing that, which I hats off to you. That's the first thing I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, I followed it decently well. It was your basics like, hey, have your protein source and have your grain, your rice or your potatoes, and then have veggies. And it was basics, but I guess it gave me something where I was like, oh, I don't want to just go and get candy or chocolate from the store. I actually want to,
It's against what my goals are.
yeah, I want to do
Yeah.
things that are in line with the person I want to be and the goals I want to have.
Yeah, the next thing I wanted to say was with your Shopify, the Pokemon store that you started. It's so funny because when we reconnected, because obviously we played soccer together, but when we reconnected on a business level, you were very much a mentor for me, which I have to give you like amazing props for. And I'm very thankful that you took me under your wing for that time period and you showed me a lot of amazing things and you still help me and guide me along the way when I come up to troubles. I always call you and you're always very good at diagnosing where I'm at.
You're
But what
welcome.
I do want to say, yes, thank you. The I was actually starting an anime store at the time when we were playing on the same soccer team. So it was really funny that I didn't know anything about the copywriting. I think I was a little bit worried about it, to be honest, in the back of my mind. I was like, can I even legally have a store where I'm selling like Naruto necklaces or Dragon Ball Z sweaters? I'm like, I don't know if I legally can do this, but I need to at least start something because I knew I wanted to be in business and I listened to a lot of stuff. And then you pull me aside and you're like, that's really cool. Tell me more. And then you're like, you should just try this marketing thing. Why don't you come over to my place out in North Van? Why don't you come see the view and quite literally see the view and see how far you've come and how it all works. So I really appreciate that. But I thought that was really funny that I probably was going to go down a quite similar path naturally.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's
mhm.
interesting, right? Because when you get into this online business stuff, you're like, okay, well, what's a business that you can start at home with like not a lot of money up front? And, most businesses, like if you think about 30 years ago, if you were to start a business in 1995, like you need to go and find like a physical storefront and you need to go and get a business loan and you need to get a lease and you'd be investing like tens of thousands of dollars before you make any money at all. And so the game has changed significantly. And so now you can get started with a business for a really low cost, which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? Where it lowers the barrier to entry for, people like us who want to just get into this world. And it also lowers the barrier of entry for people that are just like, oh, I'm just going to, scam and rip people off, and leads to a lack of trust in our industry, which I know that we
Oh,
both
it's
run into all the time.
that can go down a whole road of a conversation about that. So, I did want to ask because now the landscape has changed like dramatically. Now social media is probably like the biggest conversation that people are talking about. Obviously, AI has been thrown in a lot as well.
Mhm.
My question to you is if you were starting over again, because obviously you went with the store, then now you went to marketing, you're still in marketing, lead generation, all that stuff. If you were to recommend someone starting off, would you recommend marketing? Similar situation to you and me, how we started athletes, very determined, don't know exactly where to focus our energy. Would you recommend that? Because I know a lot of people talk about school, which Alex Hermosi obviously is a part founder or investor or something to do with school. And then there is the influencer route. So, do you have a recommendation or maybe like a couple different recommendations based on what kind of person you are? Or what would you do if you were back, if you were start like 19 now wanting
Yeah.
to do it? What do you think? How would you approach that?
Yeah, it's a great question because I think everybody is a little bit different, right? And what strengths and weaknesses that you have and what you like and dislike will definitely affect or impact what you want to get into. Because, for example, some people love like design and like designing cool things and cool pages and like, logos, and some people are just naturally designers. And so for me, I'm just more of a logical person. I'm very logical with things. And so what I should start versus someone that's like more design oriented should start is going to be completely different. I will say if I was 19, I would be learning everything possible about AI and keeping myself as far ahead of the curve as I could. Just because if you look at the vast majority of people, most people are introductory level into AI. They maybe use ChatGPT every once in a while, and that's pretty much it. And where you're at with AI right now is obviously privately there's so much technology available, and you're already seeing these AI human robot that are coming onto the market. But having said that, the AI industry, if you're able to make things more efficient because of either a software that you can build with AI or a process that you can implement or things like that, I think that's where there's a lot of opportunity. To be honest, if I was 19 right now, I would probably just try to learn AI skills and learn how AI can save you time and make things more efficient. And then I would go and sell that to small businesses, especially local businesses, that in almost any industry, to be honest. You could go into, let's say, a flower shop, for example, and there's probably something that you can do with AI to improve their logistics and improve inventory. And a lot of shops probably just have basic spreadsheets or basic inventory systems. And like now, if you look,
So many people. I have
yeah,
to say, so many people, if you're a younger person watching this, even if you're older, like so many businesses, you'd be shocked, are just using the most basic surface level stuff. So many businesses operate still on spreadsheets. Like it's crazy. They're not a lot of people don't even know what basic systems look like automations. So it's
Yeah,
still quite new for a lot of people.
100%. And like I said, that's something that I would do. I would focus a lot on like, hey, how can I make things efficient? How can I save someone time or how can I make them more money through using AI?
Yeah.
Usually it's time efficiency, I would say. In a lot of cases, you can do 30 hours of work in 12 hours with AI and with someone just managing that AI. So that's one thing. And then on the other side, let's say you're someone that's more design oriented and you're more creative and you're more artistic, then selling something like AI to amplify your creativity. And I can't give you a specific example of that because it really depends on what you're looking to do.
Yeah.
But AI can help unlock your output and you can have your creative process and then you can basically mimic that creative process with AI and have AI help to strengthen your creative process. And so that's what I'd be looking at if
Yeah.
I was more design oriented. For me, again, being very logical, I'm looking for, hey, where can we implement a system or a structure to save time?
Yeah, no, I love that. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about that you mentioned was the unique differences between every individual and how that corresponds with potentially what you should be leaning towards in terms of what you should do with AI or what you should do for your own business or how you can make changes to your own life. One thing, and I don't know what the graph is, I'm curious if you know what I'm talking about, but there was this graph based on what type of person you were that led towards a certain type of career path. So, for
Yeah.
someone who's more yeah, yeah. So for someone who's more conscientious and more sociable, they lean towards more of those type of career paths, salesperson, marketer, that type of thing. But for someone more analytical, they lean towards certain types of careers. Now, I want to mention one thing because I think it's helpful for the audience listening is how you can discover this. At least one thing for me that helped me discover this is if you look at the general people that you know, even if it's just your parents, but try to think about people you went to high school with, middle school, and just try to think about what they're good at, but what you're better at than them on average. That was what sort of helped me. So, for instance, I know this might sound a bit weird, but I asked one of my best friends growing up, I said, what do you think that I'm surprisingly good at that you're just like shocked by? And one of the things he said was he's like, Zach, when we're in a lineup, you could start a conversation with someone in front of you as if you guys are friends. And I could not do that. And nor do I want to do that. And it was just a random skill set that he mentioned that I never thought about as being a skill set, which definitely can lead to a bunch of different avenues. Speaking, which is part of the reason why I'm starting this, but also coaching and mentorship and marketing, and that it builds into those areas. So, do you have any thoughts towards what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So maybe to back up a little bit, you're talking about someone that is trying to identify where their skills at or what they're good at, essentially.
Yeah.
I think asking the people around you is probably the best thing that you can do. If you look at your parents, look at if you're dating someone or you're married to someone or you have a close group of friends, ask them, hey, what is something that I'm really good at, surprisingly good at? And then what is something I'm surprisingly horrible at? And usually the thing that you're surprisingly good at is the thing you want to focus on. And the thing that you're surprisingly horrible at is the thing that you want to hire or delegate or have nothing to do with, essentially. For me,
Yeah.
that's accounting. I'm terrible at it. Was funny because I'm pretty logical, but if you put me into a spreadsheet and I have to deal with a bunch of numbers, I'm lost and I hate it.
Yeah, it's funny. And I think this is just a funny story, so I'm going to tell it. While I was trying to figure out all the business stuff, I really practiced doing math, but not accounting, just legit being quicker at doing calculations on the spot. So I literally sat there with an app, paid like $5 for it, and I would go and I'd have a notebook and I'd be writing down my times tables because I genuinely thought that was going to make a difference.
Yes.
And what I learned through that, I think, is pretty valuable, which is you don't need to 10x the stuff that you're bad at. You should
No.
be focusing on 10xing the stuff that you're good at because that's what's going to actually make you stand out. Because sure, I got better at math, 100%. I was able to give you answers quite quickly. But if someone who, like, for instance, yourself, who I would say is quite strong at mathematics, would just be able to pick up a lot faster. If you wanted to get better at math, it would be a lot better for you than it would be for me. So I should be focused on the stuff that
You're
I'm
already good at.
surprisingly good at. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of people struggle with getting that initial starting point or growing to the next level. If you want to grow to the next level, you really need to cut the fat off. Like, you don't need to be good at math if you don't like math, or you don't need to practice public speaking if you're not that kind of person and you like to be behind the scenes.
Mhm.
Just 10x that.
Mhm.
So that's what I'll say about it.
Yeah, 100%. If you think about your life and yourself as a character with certain attributes, like for example, maybe you're really fast, maybe your speed is like 70 out of 100. For me, my artistic ability, my ability to like color a painting or color a drawing or even draw something is 25 out of 100. And
Yeah.
it's way better for me to say for marketing, for example, I'm a 90, 95 out of 100. I'm already good there. And to be honest, you get more for me, I would get way more out of going from 90 to 92 or 93 in marketing in terms of outsized returns that I would get from my clients because I run a marketing agency than I would get from going from 25 to 35 in my artistic ability. Yes, I'll improve, but it's not really something that's going to move the needle for me unless it's like a separate creative pursuit and it's something I genuinely enjoy, which I don't. I'm not trying to draw
See,
pictures all the time.
I think that's an amazing point. And the thing that I want to ask you, and I think this is where the confliction starts, the friction of this sort of conversation starts to happen. So, what if what you're good at by trait isn't what you actually want to be doing by passion? I think that's where a lot of people get hung up, because a lot of people say to themselves, yeah, I'm good at talking, but I don't want to pick up the phone and start doing cold calls and practice like doing sales pitches and taking people through sales decks and learning how to communicate through projects and learn about scope. That doesn't interest me. I might be amazing at it if I learn it, but I don't have the interest. So where on the scale do you balance that out with, oh, I might be really passionate about this, but my traits really don't show for this one that well. If I focus over here, I might be able to make a lot more money. And I think my initial opinion is gearing towards the one you're better at is probably better for you in the maybe short to medium term, because you're actually going to be able to make your life better. Because I find that a lot of people aren't focused on what they're good at, they're focused on whatever's going to get them by. And if you focus just on the passion stuff that you're not good at, it's not going to help move the needle of you getting out of your job or from you taking your business from here to here. If you're focused on doing the accounting in your business, let's just say you're a smaller or medium sized business, or let's just say you're doing the HR work and you're better off not doing it, then it makes sense for you to spend that money and focus on what you're good at. What do you think? Is that pretty accurate to your opinion as well, or do you have other ideas?
I think I would just say it depends on where you're at. If you're someone that you've been working a job that you hate, and that's the skill that you have that you're good at, but you don't really like, and you have this other skill that you actually like and you want to pursue, then what you probably want to do is do both. Where, like, if you're in a good financial situation and you're fine, then yeah, quit your job and go and build up that other skill and until you can make more money from it. But especially right now, I think a lot of people aren't necessarily in that situation where they got a ton of cash lying around. And so I think it's something where you have your thing that you're good at, but maybe you hate or you don't like it.
It's going to be hard either way, either path you pick. Like, just because you might be a little bit better at one side.
If you have a skill that you're good at, but you don't like, and that's your job, and then you have another skill that you're good at and you enjoy, and it's something where you can do both, right? Where you work your job and then you have your side time where you build up your side hustle or you're applying for jobs with your other skill or whatever that might
Yeah.
look like. But then the other part of this is if you think about people that like post content or stand out in a certain industry, there's usually not one thing about them. There's usually a couple of things that are combined that makes them unique. For example, Alex Hormozy is an example where that guy's like a marketer and a business person, but he's freaking jacked. And so you can tell that he also has an interest in fitness. And there's these two very broad categories that he excels at. And that's why he excels to a very wide demographic of people. But on the other side, you can be really into trains and you can be really into hanging out outside. And your thing is you go outside and you build these crazy train tracks and you're doing this thing that you love. And it's an intersection of multiple things that you're good at. And so I think for almost everyone, there is an intersection of multiple things that they're uniquely good at. Nobody can like really replicate because it's multiple skills that you have that are both unique, and it really depends on what you want to do. Are you trying to start a business? Are you trying to post content? There's a lot of different directions that can go.
Yeah. I love that. I appreciate that. So thank you. Now, to the second question, which I wanted to ask, in your business that you currently operate, from maybe the starting point to now, what's been the hardest part about running it?
The hardest part.
It's a pretty loaded question too. You can have a
There's a
couple
lot of
things that
hard
have been
parts.
hard.
There's a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Running a
that's
business is
fair.
hard, to be honest. Right now, it's been, for me, it's been difficult. The last couple of months have been difficult for me. And I think the hardest part is just to keep going. I think there's various points where you just want to quit and you're just like, I'm done with this and I'm
Why?
going to get a job. Or because it's hard, because you'll work your ass off for a client and then get fired the next month, or you'll put your heart and soul into a campaign and it performs well for 3 weeks and then it just completely dies. And you have good clients, then things are going pretty well, but you're stuck on something mentally. And there's always something in business that someone is doing better than you, or that you know that you could be doing better. So I think the hardest thing about it is living with the fact that you have to put the business down, even though what the business needs to grow is more input, and accepting that you as an entrepreneur isn't going to put 100% of the input that the business needs because you're limited as a human and as an entrepreneur. I think that's probably one of the most difficult things, where it's easy to feel this guilt or this frustration around like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or I should be doing more, or why aren't things working, or things aren't working and I know I could be doing something to fix it. But you're also not a robot, and sometimes what's going to fix the problem isn't just working on it more and looking at it more. Sometimes the most valuable thing to do in your business is to walk away from it. For example, you could be dealing with, let's say, a level 2 problem, and you're trying to come up with these level 2 solutions, and you go and walk for an hour and a half and then sit on a bench and just have like no stimulation, and you'll have a level 5 solution that pops up that solves every basis of what you were trying to figure out at that level 2 level. And
Love
so
that.
I think that's one of the hardest things. There's this logic side of the business that can lead to guilt and frustration and all of these valid emotions. But then there's this other side of the business where there is recognizing yourself and becoming self aware and knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at, and knowing when you're just like spinning your wheels versus when, hey, 20 more minutes is going to help me solve this problem, versus hey, I need to step away for a day and then look at this tomorrow, and I'll be better off for it. Recognizing and being able to do that is one of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. So when it doesn't really feel motivating to keep working, what for you helps you get what you need to get done? What's the driver for you? Because there is a difference between being burnt out and there's a difference from being unmotivated. And sometimes you have to push through that. What do you typically do on those days? What are the thoughts? What are the maybe the little habits or something that you do just to maybe a 5 minute break route? What is it that you do to keep pushing through?
Yeah, this is something that I have a hard time with sometimes, like finding that when is the right time to keep working versus when is the right time to walk away or spend time reflecting. So I think number one is just recognizing, if this a pattern, have I been waking up for 8 days and every day is like this, or is this just a one-off thing? Being human is you're gonna have days where you feel good and you're gonna have days where you don't feel as good. And if it's a day where I don't feel that good, then I'm going to do things that make me feel good, because it's going to change the way I feel about the business and the work that I have to do. It's often not the work that is hard or frustrating, it's how I feel about it. And so for me,
That is so true.
yeah.
So true.
Yeah, for me, I wake up, I've had a pretty good week, but I wake up one day and I'm just not feeling it. Then I'll put on music. I'll play some of my favorite songs. I'll chill and listen to that. And you can listen to a couple songs, and all of a sudden you feel significantly better. Or let's say it's in the middle of the day and I've been working for a while, then I'm going to go walk for like 15, 20 minutes. Or sometimes it's like, hey, I need to do something else for a couple minutes, and then I'll look at this and I'll feel way better about it. Other times when it's more of like a systematic thing, I know both of us have kind of talked about this before we started this episode, but sometimes it's a systematic thing where it's every day for multiple days you're waking up and you're tired of pushing this heavy rock up a hill. And when it's something like that, then you usually need more than like a couple good songs to get out of that. And so that is usually a product of being dysregulated is what I've kind of realized and noticed, at least for myself, is if it's multiple days that you're like, oh my God, I can't work on this. What you might need is to meditate for 20 minutes. You might need to go swimming. You might need to go and hang out with your friends for a few hours. Let's say you're trying to solve something and it's day one, you look at it and you're like, ugh. And day two, you're like, ugh. And day three and day four. And like there's 7 or 8 days where you're like, you just can't move on it. It's like, okay, well, it might not be the thing. There's probably something deeper going on that needs to be addressed. Well, how do you address that? You need to create the space for it, right? And that's why meditating or getting away from your laptop, like sometimes what happens is we try to do more when we're like having
I'm totally victim of that,
we're just like
totally.
let me force it and like we've
Because in your mind, the thought is that's the only thing that's going to get you to the next stage. I think that's the thing that comes to mind for me is when I overwork, it's, yeah, if I stop working, I'm going to lose momentum on this area of my business because I know if I spend 2 hours doing this every day for weeks, I know that I'm going to compound interest on that. Whereas if I take a break, that's going to cause me to, this side of the business needs to be picked up tomorrow. So I might miss something over there again. And then it just, over time, that's the fear, right? So it keeps you shackled to your own business that was supposed to free you.
Yep. And that's where it comes back to what I mentioned earlier about the two sides of business, where you have this logical side where it's, hey, I need to do these things to get this outcome. But then you also have the more intuitive side and the more ethereal side where it's not necessarily a logical path. Sometimes it's something where you need to give yourself space for ideas to show up or for solutions to show up. It's like Einstein sitting under the tree. You know what I mean? Like there is something non logical about him sitting under the tree and then the apple falls and then logic gets kicked in, right? Like an idea
Mhm.
pops up and then you can use those logical faculties to address whatever's going on. But usually if you're just like, oh, I keep doing this thing and it's not working, you just keep running into the same brick wall over and over again. Why don't you take 20 steps back, look at the entire picture, and then you might notice, hey, there's actually this path
Yeah.
around the wall that I can take and see that because you're so tunnel vision on, I need to do this, that this is the only way. And sometimes when we're in our logical part of the mind, there's no way around the logic because we're at that level and we're trying to solve a level two problem with level two logic when there is a higher level solution for what's going on that we don't have access to on this level. And that's where
Yeah, because you're operating at that level. That's what your base is. So you're never going to get that thought. It's never going to drop into your head. I love that. The idea of a level two problem with a level five solution. That's probably one of the favorite things I've heard you say. Like
yeah.
that's awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, where if you're hitting the same thing over and over and over again, there's something that's not working, right? And if you're hitting the same thing over and over again, you're probably not in this highest level use of your thinking because you keep getting stuck. And so that's where it's really important to just like, okay, how can I back out of this? How can I zoom out of this? How can I slow down? There's always something that when you're stuck around something, there's usually something that you're not perceiving or there's a solution that could work but you're not open to it or you're stubborn to it, and that's where creating that additional space can help you see maybe this other thing we thought of isn't so bad because then we can do this other thing. There's only so much that you can do when you're stuck at a certain level of thinking and you're not doing things outside of that thinking time that are resetting yourself, resetting that burnout, giving yourself the rest, giving yourself the space to be able to think at a higher level. Because the reason why you're stuck there is because you don't have that ability, you don't have access to think at these higher levels.
So does those thoughts and way of perception about your business and your life, does that change how you think about success from when you first started?
Yeah, and no, to be honest, because I think when you first get into business, you're like, I want to make a lot of money and I want to build something where I don't have to work that much. So I'm making a lot of money and I have freedom. I can travel where I want to and I can have a family. Broadly, those things are still the same, you know what I mean? Where it's still I want to make money and have it be a high leverage path or vehicle to create wealth. And the broad things still exist, but when you're first starting, you're looking at this massive mountain that you have to climb or this massive forest that you need to make your way through. And when you've been doing it for a long enough period of time, you understand the nuance of the mountain or of the forest. Twice a month, the forest is going to have this crazy gust of wind that if I'm not expecting, I'm going to get knocked on my ass and not be able to like move at all for 3 days. And that could be burnout.
That's
Um,
so true.
and
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. Keep going.
yeah,
I love.
and as you deepen your journey in business, as you get to understand the forest, you explore more of the forest, you meet other people that have been exploring the forest for a while. Before, you're not even in the forest, so you don't even know what the hell is going on in the forest. Then when you enter the forest, you meet other people, you're noticing the natural elements of how the forest works, which is different than not being in the forest. The natural elements outside the forest are different than the natural elements in the forest. And there's things that you don't realize until you're actually in it and living it. And I think it's easy when you're starting to have this confidence, this false confidence of, hey, I'm just going to do this and this and this, and then I'm going to have a business that makes $50,000 a month profit. And then you realize, okay, it's not quite that easy. Like there's a lot of nuance to get there. And so I think the biggest thing is what you want doesn't necessarily change. Like what you're looking to accomplish doesn't necessarily change. The path to get there definitely changes because you just learn. And then for some people, it does completely change. And I'm speaking for myself, right? Where you do have some people where they go into business and they're just like, hey, I want to make as much money as possible. I'll work 80 hours a week. And then they do that for like 3 or 4 years and they just work their face off and they build some wealth, but then their health starts collapsing. Then their family doesn't talk to them anymore. Then their friends won't even speak to them. All of these other things start to happen. And then either that person will just continue doing that or they'll have like this moment of realization, this moment of awakening where they realize what I thought I was looking to build is different than what I want to actually build. And then in some cases, those people will adjust the way that they work and their business model and all of those little things to support what they actually want versus what they thought they want. Other people are like, nope, that's I am, they get the ego from like speaking on stages or the number in their bank account and they're like, I am successful because of those things, and they stay set on that. So
Yeah, and it becomes popular mainstream. So then a lot of people who are listening and trying to start, they get all of this information and they're like, yeah, that's exactly how I have to be. I have to get rid of these people that don't think like me. Yeah, I totally get that. And that's something that's been as you actually when you do if you don't have a business or if you do have a business, when you finally get into it and it becomes your life, you realize like what you said, the nuances of it, where you start to actually take in and say to yourself, "Oh, I don't want my life to be like this all the time 24/7. I can definitely see that if I give a good 4-hour workday versus a crappy 10-hour workday, how that's going to treat my business and how my clients are going to be reacting to that too." So I find that the quality of work definitely shifts as well. And you have to be mindful, one, of how you build your team around you because they have to fill your weaknesses. But two, also be mindful of yourself because you're the manager of yourself, right? I want to ask you some rapid fire questions to end it off. Are you game?
yes, let's do it.
All right. All right. Okay. So the first one is, what's one thing you do daily that keeps you sharp?
One thing I do daily. That's a good question because I've actually been working on my daily habits. Some of my habits have fallen off recently a little bit as I experienced some turbulence. But in terms of habits that keep me sharp, I mean, I think the number one is sleep. I don't think there's anything else that matters more than sleep in terms of your mental faculties. If you're
Yeah,
not sleeping well, then you're screwed. Like there's no supplements or amount of caffeine that can overcome that. Yes, you can get yourself energized, but you're not going to be your critical thinking is going to be massively affected.
I
I
agree.
think I think the number one thing that I'm going to say there is sleep. You just got to focus on sleep.
Is there any other habit that comes to mind that you have done in the past that you're looking forward to doing in the future because you got so much positive benefits from it?
I would just say some type of mindfulness, whether that's like me meditating, whether that's me going on a walk without any stimulation, no podcast, no phone calls, nothing like that. Just having some period of mindfulness in my day where I'm not being reactive and I'm just observing. I'd say that's the other thing because sometimes you can get into this negative spiral that takes you out for 45 minutes. And all it takes is 6 minutes of watching your thoughts, and you can proactively prevent that.
Something that I learned from you by just watching you throughout the years is I actually started turning off my phone, and I will straight up leave the house without my phone and I'll go do something else. Whether it could be in the house or I could genuinely go for a walk without my phone at all.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people don't value that time without their phone as much as I think they should,
Yeah.
because you really do feel different when you don't reach in your pocket and there is no chance of anybody reaching you. If someone tried to call you, it was an emergency, they could not.
Yeah.
And I understand if you're a parent or something like that, it might not be as realistic in some ways,
Mhm.
but even if you can manage 20 minutes without the phone, I think it's huge.
Mhm.
My next question is about the best purchase, $500 or less, that has changed your life or that is your favorite purchase. And it could be broad scope or it could be like very narrow, like the last year, whatever you prefer, whatever comes to mind. So $500 or less.
That's a good question.
What's your gut telling you?
Yeah, so I have two that comes to mind. I think one is a flight to California, and because it gets cold up here in Vancouver, and I would say travel is something that always helps. Like obviously the trip, once I'm there, it's more than $500, but the flight itself is less than 500.
That's fair.
Um, that's one thing that came to mind. The other thing that came to mind is I joined this mastermind. So that's a $500 a month mastermind. And I'm already getting some value out of that for stuff for my clients and my own business.
Do you mind explaining it briefly,
Yeah.
like what a mastermind it is, what you joined specifically? If someone wanted to find something similar.
Yeah, so it's by this guy, Alan Sultanic. It's called Nothing Held Back. It's like a group mastermind. There's tons of content. There's like hundreds of hours of content in there. They do live hot seat calls multiple times a week where you can get your offers reviewed, your ads reviewed. It's meant for marketers. For me, it's nice to be in a space with other marketers that are crushing it. And I've been in there for about 2 weeks, and every mastermind is going to be different, right? Like there might be some masterminds that are general business, there might be a mastermind around social media, but a mastermind, broadly speaking, is the idea that I have my mind and Zach has his mind. And if we put our minds together, then the sum of our parts is better than each part individually. And so when you put multiple people into a mastermind, 10, 15 people into a mastermind, the goal is that the sum of the collective brain power is stronger than what you would come up with on your own separately, individually.
Thank you for that. Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Really? I'm actually surprised by that. I feel like you used to operate quite well at night.
I can, but when I was first starting my business, I'd sleep like 1:30 to 9:30 type of thing, or 1:30 to 9, and I would work late into the night. But I find that I'm most productive in the morning. My evening time has to be like kind of either education or exploring things or whatever. But my morning in terms of actual productivity and moving the needle on things is 100% the morning.
One word to describe your mindset right now.
Resilient. Resilient is what comes to mind. No matter what happens, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to get through it.
A book or a podcast you'd tell everyone to check out aside from the Transparent Talk podcast that clearly they already know.
Yeah, everybody should be watching this in the world. One book. Oh, that's tough.
That is tough.
I have two in mind.
Oh, go ahead. I'm not going to limit you.
Okay. All right, I'll give you both then. So one is The Alchemist. I think The Alchemist is a great book.
You recommended that one to me. I loved it. I
Yeah,
loved it.
it's a great book. It's like a perfect hero's journey. That's number one. Number two, I can't even rank them number one, number two. Like they're both number
Yeah, yeah.
is Man's Search for Meaning. And I think this just
That's
really
the one.
depends on where you're at in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where Man's Search for Meaning is just such a hard hitting book of where he details his time in concentration camps and what that reality was like. And then also how that reality, how he learned in his psycho practice what keeps people alive. It's actually crazy. Just the idea of having something to live for versus and having some type of hope, the power of that. And so that's an incredible book. It will affect you emotionally.
That's what I was gonna say.
Not
Yeah,
affect you emotionally.
I was totally gonna say the same thing. Yeah, it's definitely a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Favorite workout or activity to clear your head? And I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm gonna let you take it away and maybe you can say why it is.
To clear my head,
Sure.
golf.
Oh, no kidding. I actually was surprised by
Yeah, I
that.
thought you thought I was gonna say soccer, huh?
Yeah,
Uh,
I do you feel like you escape more with golf?
Well, yeah, I think it's if you look at them, right? Soccer is this high intensity activity with other people. It's great. I love it. I'm a huge soccer guy, and it's very close for me because they both give me that let me get away from whatever and let me be present in what I'm doing. So soccer does that, but I think what's different about golf for me is one, the length of time. So you're out there for like 4.5 hours. You're outside in nature. Like soccer, yeah, you can have games outside, but you're just at a park. You know what I mean? You're not in nature. Like when you're golfing, you can see deer, you can see all types of like birds, animals. It's amazing the wildlife you can see when you're golfing.
Do you want to say your favorite course that you on?
Mm, yeah, it's called Talking Rock in Chase, BC. Unbelievable course. And when I was in California, I got to play this really nice private course down there called Palma Valley. Unbelievable course, but I would still rate Talking Rock higher. It was just such a incredible experience. I got to play that for the first time about 5 or 6 weeks ago.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. For people that are interested in golf, it'll be in the notes. Well, thank you so much for coming on again, and I'm super excited to hopefully have you on for part three at some
Yeah.
time, at some point.
See you
But
in
yeah,
part three. Looking forward to it.
part
We'll
three.
we'll do
Thank you,
part
Jayden.
three before the end of 2025.
That sounds good to me. All right, take care.